hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Welcome to Ask the Experts radio show, proudly sponsored by board-certified family law attorney Tina Lewert of Lewert Law, LLC. Sit back for the next half hour as host Steve-O interviews top experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Steve-O offers such educational topics as community association law, family law, chiropractic care, employment law, healthcare law, and public insurance adjusting. Interviews by top experts in their field. And now, here's your host, Steve-O.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be here on Thursday night for your drive home. Everybody drive careful out there. There's always crazy people, especially out there on 95. Oh, tonight we've got some incredible shows tonight. Our first show, for 2 months, everybody asked me would we do an estate planning show? And they called it elder law, they called it probate, wills. And it's not so easy to get someone who's just spectacular. But we found an attorney who has actually dedicated her practice to representing families in probate, guardianship, and estate planning. Let me welcome to you. She's with us every month. I am going to have problems every month, no matter how many times she tells me how to pronounce her name. Let me introduce you to our expert attorney, Natalia Bevilacqua.
That was really close. Bevilacqua.
Bevilacqua.
It means drink right? Water in Italian. Yes, that's perfect.
Oh, it does? Well,
yes.
Listen, my last name is so much longer than yours, and that's why it goes Steve-O. But anyway, I'm so glad to have you. And, estate planning, I think, is more important now than ever before. And I might be wrong about this, Natalia, but all I read about are people dying from the pandemic. Or maybe it wasn't the pandemic, but they died anyway. And I wonder about how many of these people figured they were going to die in their 50s or their 40s and didn't make any type of plans at all. And that's where you come in.
I don't want to be all doom and gloom and add to the all the negativity that is portrayed in the media all the time. But the truth is, pandemic or not, no matter what's happening, every single one of us there's only one way out of here. And planning for these things, I obviously feel like it's incredibly important. I have dedicated my career to it, and I love talking about it. I love telling people what will happen if you don't. And if you're okay with that, then that's fine. If that works for you and your family, that's okay too. And my job is to tell you about it, and so that you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your loved ones, most importantly.
Natalia, tell us about your practice, about yourself, how long you've been in practice for, and tell us about your practice and what you do.
I've been practicing for, I think, just over 7 years now. And all I do is estate planning, probate, and guardianship, which is all interrelated. So you either plan before you die, or we'll see you in probate and guardianship court if you didn't plan.
Well, I got to tell you that I read through your website. Family is very important to you. And I think that's why you just went into the perfect area, estate planning. So let's start off. What is estate planning? What is it?
I think the easiest way to explain estate planning is the steps that you take as an individual to prepare for two possibilities, either what happens after your death or what happens if you become incapacitated before your death. And don't, quote me on this statistic, but I think it's one out of every six people will first become incapacitated. So the estate planning is the planning that you can do to ensure that your family is okay, that your family is not fighting, that your family has easy access to whatever funds should be available to them, that if you have minor children, your minor children are not ever taken into custody of, by Child Protective Services. All those things are something that you should think about beforehand, because obviously afterwards is too late.
Why do you think that people wait so long to plan?
I ask this my clients all the time, especially the ones that come to me and say, I've been thinking about doing this for 9 years.
Mm.
Um, I think it's probably hard to face your own mortality, and it's hard to imagine your family leaving your family behind. I mean, as a mom, I think for me that would be the biggest barrier, just thinking about what would happen to my kids if I wasn't around. And I think for men, it's more facing your mortality.
Do you know, a lot of people have no idea what goes into planning when it comes to estate planning. Can you tell people things that you do that when you sit down with them, some of the things that you are important that they plan out?
So when I sit down with a client or a potential client, I tell them what will happen under Florida law should something happen to them today, as things are set up for them right now, whatever old planning they have, or if they have no planning. And then we talk to them if what would happen under the current circumstances would work. And if not, then we can make arrangements. We put together documents and we think of trusted persons in their life who could take over certain duties. And then we put a plan together if what would happen without a plan does not work for them and their family.
Power of attorney is important, isn't it?
I personally think that a power of attorney is even more important than a will. At the end of the day, your family, your closest family, your children, your spouse, they will get their inheritance through the court process, or however you have it set up. But the expenses of ending up in guardianship court when you are no longer able to speak for yourself and cannot take care of your affairs, if you have not designated a person to take care of your affairs for you, it will be a very upsetting process for your family and a very expensive process to take that through the courts.
Um, Natalia, don't you get into like long-term care and things like that that people don't even think about?
Long-term care, as far as give me.
Like nursing homes, assisted living, home care that people don't think about.
Actually, people that do come to me, they a lot of times have thought about those things, and they do ask about them, and they do ask about Medicaid planning, how to
Yes,
make sure that Medicaid covers what needs to be the care that needs to be covered for them, and that they do not lose all of their assets. Medicaid planning is a very specialized area that I work with other knowledgeable attorneys on. It's incredibly important to go see an attorney early enough, not when you're having a health crisis. Um,
right.
it's a very interesting topic, and
Do
it's
you
very involved.
is open enrollment, do you have anything to do with that at all? With Medicare?
Usually people talk to their brokers, and
Okay,
lately that has been very hard for people. At least that's what I'm hearing from my clients. A lot of times brokers don't make the money that they want to make off of those policies, so it's been challenging recently.
okay. I always think about Prince. Here's a guy who was worth millions and millions of dollars, had all this management team around him, and he dies with no will. How does that happen?
It's a little mind-boggling, and to be honest with you, I don't know that a will is always the answer, because a will, it spells out what your wishes are, but it still has to go through probate court. I think that's a huge misconception that people have, that if they have a will, then their family will just somehow automatically receive whatever they're supposed to receive under the terms of that will. In The benefit of having a will is that you can actually get to choose who gets what, right? You can add certain relatives or friends to receive a gift from you. You can disinherit, adult children if they haven't been particularly nice to you. So that is a benefit of having a will, is that you get a say other than whatever scheme the Florida legislature put in place. However, a will does have to be taken to probate, and at that point, you're paying me or another probate attorney to take it through probate. So while a will is a relatively inexpensive document to put in place, it doesn't, an attorney will make their money later on taking that will through probate.
Okay, so probate's expensive, correct?
Probate is expensive, and if in case someone does not know what probate is the court case about inheritance, where a court makes sure that all the assets are gathered of the person that passed away, all their debts are paid, and whatever is left gets distributed to the proper persons. So that's the probate process, and it sounds very simple when you describe it in one sentence, but in reality, it takes months, if not years, and it costs
Right.
it's thousands of dollars, if not tens of thousands of dollars.
So Natalia, we're going to go to break right now, and when we come back, I want you to tell the listeners how can they avoid, if they can, probate. What
I'd love
you
that.
can do. So give everybody your phone number.
It's 561-877-1515.
And you have a website?
I do. If anyone cares to know how to spell my last name, it's bevilacqualaw.com.
It's, when you look at it, Natalia, it's actually exactly what it looks like. But we're going to go to break. We come back, and you're going to kind of tell our listeners how maybe you can avoid them going into probate. We'll be right back.
Bevilacqua Law thoughtfully and intentionally limits its practice to interrelated areas of probate, estate planning, and guardianship. You've worked hard for what you have. You love your family. Do not leave your assets stuck in court. Do not leave your family dealing with delays and red tape. Benjamin Franklin said, "Failing to plan is planning to fail." Call Bevilacqua Law today to schedule a consultation to discuss your family, your goals, your concerns, and your wishes. They make this a painless process that will leave you knowing that you protected your family. Your family will feel secure and loved, and you can feel at ease, knowing you did the very best thing for them. Call today, 561-877-1515. Again, 561-877-1515.
We are back now with more of the Ask the Experts radio show, proudly sponsored by board-certified family law attorney Tina Lewert of Lewert Law LLC, covering South Florida.
And we are back. We're here this evening with estate planning attorney Natalia Bevilacqua. And we started talking about probate law, and it can get quite expensive. Is there anything you can do, Natalia, to keep people out of probate?
Absolutely. And first, I want to talk about what kinds of assets actually have to go through probate. So anything that you own in your name alone, so it does not have a co-owner, it does not have a beneficiary, anything that's in your name alone when you die will have to go through probate court. For example, if you own a house that's just in your name alone, if you have a bank account that's just in your name alone, those things have to go through probate. If you have joint ownership of something, like a bank account, if you have a joint bank account with your spouse, for example, or for whatever reason with your child, then the survivor will receive the entire bank account. That asset will not have to go through probate. If you own property with a co-owner, it's important to ask a licensed attorney to take a look at your deed to see if there is a right of survivorship on that property. So if there is a right of survivorship, then the survivor will receive the entire property on the death of one of the owners. If there is not a right of survivorship and it's just joint ownership, the deceased owner's half, or whatever part of the property they own, would have to be taken through probate. So it's important to designate beneficiaries on everything that you have in order to avoid probate. You don't have to add co-owners to your property while you're alive. I believe people should retain full control of what they have, while they're living, but everything can be designated as pay on death, transfer on death. Different entities call it different things. But the point is that if you have a beneficiary for your bank account, for your home, for whatever it is that you may have for your stocks, and if there is a beneficiary, everything will pass to that beneficiary or beneficiaries on your death. That's something that people can do on their own. You can just go into your bank branch and say, hey, I'd like to designate so-and-so as the pay on death beneficiary of my account. If you want to add a beneficiary to your home, you obviously need to go see an attorney. So those are easy things that people can do on their own. The best thing, a lot, not always, but a lot of times the best thing is to put your assets into a trust. That way it's not you, it's your trust that owns your bank account, your home, whatever else you have, or your trust is a beneficiary of your assets. That way, on your passing, you have designated another person to take care of managing that trust and just giving the property that's in the trust to your loved ones.
Well, I got a uh, text message from one of our listeners. They want to know if you can explain a revocable living trust.
I would love to explain a revocable living trust. They're actually quite popular and very effective. I always tell my clients to think of their trust as, those little red wagons that kids pull.
Yes,
I think Radio Flyer is the brand. So I always
yes.
tell my clients to think of their trust as one of those little wagons. And as you go through life, you acquire new things, you put it into your little wagon. You sell something or, gift it, you take it out of your wagon. But all throughout your life, you're pulling that wagon along, and it has all of your things in it. Once you become unable to keep going, whether you pass away or you become incapacitated, you have already designated another person, a trusted person, to pick up that handle for you and keep going. So a trust is your little red wagon. It's basically like a company that you're the manager of, and it owns all of your things, and you have designated another manager to take over once you become unable to do so. And it's called revocable because you can revoke it, cancel it, change the terms of it at any point for as long as you're alive and competent.
We just got another text. Would you give out your phone number again?
I would love to give out my phone number. It's 561 877 1515.
Oh, we just got another one too. Um, can you explain guardianship? I have an autistic son, and he's
I'd
getting
like
ready
to.
to turn 18. What do I
Yes,
need
so
to do?
that is a common situation, and I think that's an upsetting situation to a lot of parents who have been taking care of their children their entire life, dealing with difficulties of having a child with a disability, and then all of a sudden that child turns 18, and then things like schools and doctor's offices and places of employment, if the child is employed, all of a sudden will not talk to you anymore because that child of yours, even though they may not be able to take care of themselves fully or at all, are now all of a sudden an adult. And there are laws such as HIPAA laws that protect their medical information. There is all sorts of education, privacy laws that protect their education information. So this is actually a very upsetting situation for a lot of parents. So what we do is that for children that are developmentally disabled, parents usually come to me about 6 months before the child turns 18. We put all the proper documentation together for the court, and we apply to the court to be appointed as guardian advocate of that child. Guardianship advocacy in Florida is it's a guardianship, but it's a lot easier for parents of disabled children to get that guardianship. And what it does is that it allows you to continue to take care of your child. Now that they're an adult, you will have a court order saying, yes, this is the person that can make the educational decisions, the medical decisions, where the person lives, etc.
Does the state have any say?
The state does have a say, and the state has an interest in protecting all disabled persons that live in that state. And that's why guardianship is not always a very fun process. It's kind of invasive. You will have to submit all of your information, your fingerprinting, your credit report, your
Oh,
history,
wow.
your employment history. So it actually is a very invasive process. However, I think there's been enough people who took advantage of children and the elderly and, otherwise disadvantaged people. So now we have to go through this whole court process to make sure that the court is in a position to supervise, make sure that everyone is well taken care of.
Do all parents know that when their child with a disability turns 18, that they need to do something? They need to, I would say, see an attorney, shouldn't they? Like yourself.
Yes, they should. Do they all know? I mean, probably not all, but I think a lot of times these close-knit communities, people when they're dealing with something like this, they do become part of some type of community that supports them, and the word does spread. So a lot of people do know, and obviously in the age of Google, but it still definitely takes some people by surprise, and it's got to be a very unpleasant surprise to receive as a parent.
Well, I promise everybody next time you'll be with us again next month. We're really going to get into estate planning as to when it comes to the children, because they're very important. Natalia, tell everybody, why should somebody retain you as their attorney? I'm going to put you on the
Because
spot.
I care. You can put me on the
Yes.
spot. That's fine. I know why they
You can
should.
let, you know what, you can
First of
tell
all, I
by your
really,
website that you care.
I really do care, and I stick to doing things that I know. I don't take any cases outside of what I know. And I think when you're looking for any type of attorney, probably same as with a doctor, you're not going to go to a dentist to do your heart surgery, right? So when you're looking for an attorney in any area, you need to make sure that that attorney's practice consists of the things that you actually want them to do. I have seen an unfortunate number of wills and such that were prepared by attorneys that don't regularly practice in the area of estate planning. And there's things that you have no way of knowing unless you have experience probating wills. So, don't say, my aunt's cousin is an attorney that does personal injury. Maybe
Right.
they can draft up a will for me as a favor. Don't do that.
I'm so glad you said that. Give everybody your phone number, Natalia.
It's 561-877-1515. And I just want your listeners to know that I'm always happy to answer questions. And I love talking about my work. I love talking about estate planning and probates and even guardianship, even though that's the saddest thing that I do. But I'm always happy to answer questions. I think people sometimes forget that attorneys are just people with, certain education, certain skill set, right? You can talk to us. We're okay. Just if you have a question, just ask a question. It's no different than being any other, having any other job.
Natalia, you're the best. I'm so glad we have your firm as our estate planning firm. You'll be back with us again next month with more. We're going to go to break, and when we come back, we have our family law attorney, Tina Lewert. We'll be right back. Thank you, Natalia.
Thanks for having me.